From Yondu's funeral at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 to Tony Stark's death at the end of Avengers Endgame, Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe contains some truly heartbreaking scenes. Those scenes were accompanied by equally heartbreaking lines of dialogue, like "I had a pretty cool dad, and you can rest now." From "Come on, Spider-Man," to "He killed my mom," to "Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors," Phase 3's movies were full of quotes that tugged on fans' heartstrings. 11 Captain America, Civil War, "I don't care. He killed my mom." Steve Rogers finds himself between a rock and a hard place in Captain America. Civil War as his childhood best friend and his closest superhero ally go head-to-head in a brutal fight. Steve doesn't want to fight Tony, but he can't let him hurt Bucky. Steve tells Tony, "This isn't gonna change what happened," and Tony's blunt response never fails to tug on the audience's heartstrings. "I don't care. He killed my mom." 10 Doctor Strange, "You'd think after all this time, I'd be ready." The Ancient One has one of the saddest death scenes in the MCU in the first Doctor Strange movie. Like most Marvel movie mentors, she dies at the midpoint to motivate the hero. But her magical powers make her on-screen demise totally unique. She always knew how she would die and when it would happen. But when that moment finally arrives, she realizes she's not ready. Tilda Swinton, one of the most revered actors in the world, nails this scene. 9 Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2. "I had a pretty cool dad." When he was younger, Peter Quill told all the other kids at school that his dad was David Hasselhoff and he wasn't around because he was busy shooting Knight Rider. In his heartfelt eulogy at Yondu's funeral in Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2, Quill explains that he pretty much did end up being raised by David Hasselhoff. He says, "Yondu didn't have a talking car, but he did have a flying arrow. He didn't have the beautiful voice of an angel, but he did have the whistle of one." There isn't a dry eye in the audience when Quill finishes his eulogy. "I had a pretty cool dad." 8 Spider-Man, Homecoming, "Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man." Since Peter Parker has superpowers and constantly throws himself into life-threatening situations, it can be easy to forget that he's just a kid. But the most heartbreaking scene in Spider-Man: Homecoming offers a poignant reminder that under the mask, Spidey is just a scared teenager. After being trapped under rubble by the Vulture, Peter fears for his life and desperately cries out for help. When he realizes help isn't coming, he motivates himself to lift the rubble by repeating his own superhero name, "Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man." 7 Thor, Ragnarok, "I love you, my sons." After Odin's final monologue before his death in Thor, Ragnarok, he poignantly refers to Thor and Loki as "my sons." This line gives the troubled trickster god some much-needed emotional closure. Loki always thought Odin didn't love him as much as his biological son Thor. But, before he fades away, Odin reveals that he loved them both equally. Ragnarok is mostly a comedic movie, but it also packs in some emotionally charged dramatic moments. 6 Black Panther, "Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships." Eric Killmonger is praised as one of the greatest villains in the MCU because he's not just blindly evil. He sees himself as the hero. He makes some good points about the lasting effects of colonialism, and he's surprisingly sympathetic. After losing his climactic fight with T'Challa in Black Panther, Killmonger asks to be buried at sea in a powerful monologue, "Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships because they knew death was better than bondage." 5 Avengers, Infinity War, "If I'm wrong, then what more could I lose?" After losing his brother, his best friend, and most of his people to Thanos' wrath at the beginning of Avengers, Infinity War, Thor is determined to kill the Mad Titan. He tells Rocket that he'll succeed in his quest to kill Thanos simply because fate wills it so. Rocket asks, "What if you're wrong?" And the God of Thunder replies, well, if I'm wrong, then what more could I lose? This line is devastating in hindsight because Thor is about to lose a heck of a lot more. For Ant-Man and the Wasp, Tell Hope I Love Her. Janet Van Dyne's subatomic disappearance was glimpsed in the first Ant-Man movie. In a flashback sequence in Ant-Man, Hank Pym's voiceover explained that Janet didn't hesitate to shrink between the atoms holding together a nuclear missile to prevent a Cold War-era catastrophe. But Janet's heartbreaking final words to Hank weren't revealed until the sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Tell Hope I Love Her. 3. Captain Marvel. No, what's hard is losing my best friend. When Carol Danvers returns to Earth and starts piecing together her backstory in Captain Marvel, she pays a visit to the best friend she can't remember, Maria Rambeau. Having mourned Carol's loss for years, Maria is less than happy to see her. Carol says, I know this must be hard for you, and Maria explains, this part right here? No. What's hard is losing my best friend in a mission so secret they act like it never even happened. Hard is knowing you were out there somewhere, too damn stubborn to die. 2. Avengers, Endgame, you can rest now. Tony Stark's tragic fate is telegraphed all throughout Avengers, Endgame. Before attempting the time heist, Tony tells Steve that to maybe not die trying would be nice. But, of course, he does die trying. Tony gives his life to use the Infinity Stones for one last finger snap that wipes out Thanos and his armies. As he falls back and succumbs to their cosmic power, Pepper comes to his side and says, you can rest now. Ever since becoming a superhero, Tony hadn't been able to rest. After liberating the universe from the Mad Titan, he finally could. 1. Spider-Man, Far From Home, everywhere I go, I see his face. The shadow of Tony Stark's demise looms large over Spider-Man, Far From Home. It was a smart move by Marvel to follow up Endgame with a Spider-Man movie because it allowed the audience to see the world's reaction to Tony's death through the eyes of his surrogate son. Spidey sums up the difficulty of his mourning process when he says, everywhere I go, I see his face. The world is full of murals and statues paying tribute to the hero who gave his life to save the universe.